persistent mist that clings to the British Isles. A silent, swirling tapestry woven from ancient reigns and forgotten histories often seems to conceal more than it reveals. Yet, sometimes, through its ethereal folds, glimpses of a past long gone shimmer into existence, not as fading memories, but as vivid, unsettling apparitions. These are the Roman ghosts of Britain, spectral echoes of an empire that once stretched from the sun-baked deserts of Africa to the wild, wind-swept fringes of Caledonia. They are the silent sentinels, the marching legions, the solitary figures etched into the very stone and soil of this island, refusing to surrender to the relentless march of time. Our journey into this spectral realm begins not with a whisper, but with a rhythmic, metallic tread that broke the mundane quiet of a York cellar in 1953. Harry Martindale, a plumbing contractor, was engrossed in his work, the scent of damp earth and ancient stone filling his nostrils. The only sounds the creak of old beams and the distant hum of modern city life. But then, a new cadence imposed itself, measured, deliberate, utterly alien to the subterranean world he inhabited. It was the unmistakable sound of disciplined movement, an ordered march. His heart, perhaps without his conscious permission, quickened. And then, from the solid, uncompromising brick of the opposite wall, figures began to coalesce, shimmering into semi-solidity like heat haze on a summer road. They were Roman soldiers, at least. That was Martindale's incredulous, yet utterly certain, conclusion. Helmeted men, their faces obscured by shadow and history, moved in an unwavering formation. The most startling detail, the one that would haunt Martindale and captivate generations, was their unnatural stature. Their torsos were clearly visible, resolute and imposing, yet their legs seemed to disappear just above the knee, as if the very ground beneath them belonged to a different plane of existence. They were marching inexorably, silently, through the cellar, a ghostly procession, utterly oblivious to the bewildered man who stood frozen in their path. Their passage was swift, their destination, another solid wall, where they dissolved back into the stone, leaving Harry Martindale alone, gasping in the sudden, profound silence, grappling with an encounter that defied logic and shattered the everyday. This wasn't merely a fleeting scare. It was an indelible moment that catapulted Martindale's testimony into the annals of paranormal lore. The account of the York cellar soldiers beneath the treasure's house became one of Britain's most famous haunts, retold and re-examined countless times. But what lent this story its extraordinary weight, its enduring power, wasn't just the sheer terror or wonder of the sighting itself. It was the remarkable, almost forensic, detail Martindale provided. He spoke of round shields, not the rectangular scutum often depicted in popular culture. He recalled short swords, blady, tucked away at their sides. Most compellingly, he described helmets that bore little resemblance to the exaggerated, theatrical headgear familiar from Hollywood epics. These were specific, historically accurate details that were not widely recognized outside specialist archaeological and historical circles at the time. Martindale was a plumber, not a classicist. His detailed recollection lent a chilling authenticity to his account. And then there was the curious matter of their height. The soldiers' legs appeared severed at knee level, as if they were wading through an invisible floor. Decades later, archaeological investigations confirmed a startling truth. The Roman road that once traversed the ancient city upon which York now stands, lay several feet below the modern floor level of the treasurer's house. This convergence of Martindale's spectral vision with verifiable historical geography offered a potent, almost irrefutable, corroboration for many. To skeptics, it might suggest unconscious historical reconstruction or selective memory. But to believers, and even to the it painted a powerful picture, a fleeting glimpse into a past that had literally sunk beneath the weight of centuries, only to surface, briefly, in spectral form. The story, despite its age, has resisted alteration, a testament to its foundational power. It remains, stubbornly, consistently, one of Britain's most compelling spectral narratives. Yet, as we delve deeper, Martindale's experience, as profound as it was, stands not as an isolated anomaly, but as a thread in a much larger, more intricate tapestry of Roman hauntings across the British Isles. Almost anywhere the legions once stood, where their camps blossomed into towns, their roads scarred the landscape, or their fortifications, guarded strategic points. Someone, eventually, claims to have seen them again. The true mystery, therefore, is not whether these Roman ghosts exist, but rather why they, of all the historical figures who have walked this land, continue to manifest with such striking frequency and consistency. Why do these particular apparitions refuse to fade? Our spectral journey next takes us to the windswept shores of Mersey Island in Essex, a place where the salt-laced air carries whispers of ancient tides and forgotten invaders. Near the site of a Roman fort at West Mersey, local folklore is rich with tales of shadowy figures moving along the shoreline, often in the deceptive gloom of failing light or shrouded by the island's characteristic sea mist. These are not solitary, forlorn spectres. They are described as groups, an ordered procession, moving with a silent, intent purpose. The island, in its Roman incarnation, played a crucial defensive role, guarding vital sea approaches along the eastern coast, part of a sophisticated late Roman defensive network designed to watch for seaborne threats. Archaeological findings continue to confirm the substantial and strategic Roman presence here. The accounts from Mersey Island share a hauntingly familiar outline with Martindale's story. The figures appear briefly, often in conditions of low visibility, the classic atmospheric hallmarks of a haunting. There is no speech, no interaction. They are absorbed in their own spectral purpose. And then, as suddenly as they appear, they are gone, leaving behind only the chilling conviction of what has been witnessed. This repetition, this almost identical pattern of manifestation, is profoundly striking. It mirrors the York encounter so closely that it strains the boundaries of mere coincidence. It suggests a shared phenomenon, a commonality in the way these ancient energies, or cultural memories, choose to impress themselves upon the present. From the low-lying coast, we ascend to the formidable, rugged spine of Hadrian's Wall, a 73-mile scar across the wild northern landscape, marking the very edge of the Roman Empire's dominion. Here, amidst the windswept moors and crumbling stone, the tone of the sightings shifts subtly, taking on a more solitary, contemplative air. Reports speak of individual figures, a lone sentry, eternally vigilant, silhouetted against the ancient stone. A mounted outline phantom horse and rider, traversing open ground where only sheep now graze. An elusive presence glimpsed fleetingly between the weathered remains of a Roman fort. Hadrian's Wall itself is more than just a historical relic. It is a profound, almost living entity within the landscape. It still cuts across the terrain with a physical presence that few other Roman structures can match. It is visibly continuous and undeniably, stubbornly real. To walk its length is to feel the immense weight of history, to grasp without needing to summon imagination. The colossal scale of what once stood here, a defiant barrier against the unknown. Perhaps this palpable sense of history, this raw, untamed beauty infused with the ghosts of millennia, is why witnesses along the wall often describe a sensation long before they ever perceive a figure. A quiet heaviness descends, an almost physical pressure in the air, a chilling sense of being observed, an unseen gaze from another time. And then, the glimpse. A flicker of armor where only bare stone should be. A movement that seems utterly disconnected from the modern world. A figure that belongs to a narrative long concluded, yet unwilling to yield its stage. It is as if the mind, immersed in such a potent historical setting, finds it easier to construct, or perceive, the imagery that matches the profound weight of the place. The structure survives, and the narrative, stubbornly, attaches itself to what can still be seen and felt. The wall, a monument to Roman power, becomes a conduit for Roman presence. Our spectral odyssey next leads us south, to Colchester, the ancient Camulodunum, a city whose Roman origins are deeply etched into its very foundations. Camulodunum was not merely a Roman town. It was the first Roman capital of Britain, a crucible of imperial ambition. It also bore witness to one of the most violent episodes in Roman British history, the furious revolt of Boudica in 8060 or 61, a cataclysm that saw the city utterly razed by fire, its Roman inhabitants massacred. It was subsequently rebuilt, fortified, and imbued with the profound, often tragic, layers of its past. Over the centuries, reports have surfaced in Colchester of Roman figures appearing near the formidable Balquerne Gate, which remains the largest surviving Roman gateway in Britain, and beneath various sections of the modern town center, often during the disruptive acts of building or excavation. As with the other sites, the descriptions are strikingly consistent. Soldiers, marching with phantom purpose, standing guard, forever watchful, silent, observing, rarely, if ever, engaging with the bewildered inhabitants of the distant future. Colchester's Roman walls are not merely theoretical. They still stand, in sections, a testament to their enduring construction. The past here is not relegated to dusty archives. It is a visible, tangible part of the daily landscape, an ever-present reminder of the city's profound antiquity. When these sightings occur during ground disturbance, during the mechanical tearing away of layers of earth and concrete, it adds a certain visceral, almost ritualistic symbolism to the encounters. It's as if the act of unearthing the physical foundations of the old town simultaneously opens a temporal portal, exposing the fragmented echoes of its former inhabitants. Whether these instances are mere coincidence, a psychological interpretation of mundane events, or genuinely something more, the pattern remains undeniably familiar. A military presence, a brief, silent manifestation, and then the return to an eerie, historical silence. The violence that once convulsed Camillo Dunum, the relentless imposition of Roman order, seems to have imprinted itself deeply into the very soul of the city, surfacing whenever the veil between ages thins. This pervasive presence of Roman specters begs the overarching question: why Romans? Britain's history is a crowded tapestry, rich with conflict, invasion, and seismic social shifts. The Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, the Normans, each left their indelible mark, often through blood and fire. The island has known civil wars, industrial upheavals, and 2 world wars. Yet, it is the Roman ghosts, more than any other, who appear with such unusual consistency, such striking uniformity. Why do these particular shades stubbornly refuse to fade from the landscape and the collective consciousness? One compelling reason lies in what we might term visual clarity. The iconography of Rome is immediately, universally recognizable, deeply embedded in our cultural psyche. The distinctive helmets, the iconic shields, the segmented armor, the straight, uncompromising roads, the disciplined formations. These are images that resonate powerfully. A medieval villager, wrapped in rough wool, while historically significant, simply does not imprint itself on the imagination with the same immediate, almost archetypal force as a Roman legionary. The Romans left behind a potent visual language, an aesthetic that remains strikingly effective even to millennia later. This enduring visual legacy provides a powerful template for the mind, a ready-made image for any ambiguous spectral sighting. Beyond visual recognition, there is the profound and lasting impact of Roman infrastructure. Roman Britain, perhaps more than any other period of ancient occupation, physically reshaped the very land in enduring ways. Roads laid by Roman engineers still form the basis for modern routes, their straight lines cutting across the landscape. Many of Britain's major towns and cities sit directly atop Roman foundations, layers of history built one upon the other. Walls, bathhouses, and other monumental structures survive in stone, tangible, physical links to that distant past. These material traces, these immutable physical connections to the Roman era, likely make the mental reconstruction, and perhaps the actual manifestation of their presence, far easier. The groundwork, both literal and metaphorical, was laid for their continued presence. Then there is the unparalleled meticulousness of Roman documentation. The Romans were indefatigable record keepers. Inscriptions carved into stone, wax tablets preserving administrative detail, elaborate histories penned by chroniclers. These form a rich, unparalleled cultural archive, a civilization that leaves such a voluminous and detailed written record that painstakingly documents its existence, its triumphs, and its daily life, tends to linger more vividly in the collective memory. Their story feels concrete, verifiable, grounded in evidence, rather than speculative or amorphous. This profound depth of self-documentation helps to solidify their place in history, making their spectral return even if merely psychological, feels somehow more plausible, more real. The vastness of their historical footprint creates an equally vast canvas for their ghostly manifestations. Furthermore, Roman Britain occupies a unique, almost liminal position in the island's vast historical timeline. It is distinct from the shadowy, prehistoric eras, yet it is distant enough to feel profoundly removed from the modern British identity. It represents both a period of foreign occupation, the subjugation of native tribes, and, paradoxically, the very origin of many aspects of British governance, urban planning, legal systems, and cultural development. It was an empire imposed, often brutally, yet it simultaneously laid foundational elements that would shape the island for centuries to come. This threshold period, a moment of profound transition and foundational change, often proves fertile ground for enduring stories, legends, and, perhaps, apparitions. These are the moments in history when the veil seems thinnest, when the echoes of the past are most powerfully felt. What truly unifies and elevates many of these Roman ghost reports, granting them their extraordinary power and chilling credibility, is a striking uniformity in their spectral behavior. They rarely speak. They seldom acknowledge the bewildered witnesses who stumble upon them. They often appear in groups, maintaining their ancient formations, their disciplined ranks. They seem utterly unaware of the present environment, of the modern world that has risen around and above them. The overwhelming impression conveyed by these accounts is not one of direct interaction, of a spirit attempting to communicate or provoke, but rather one of ceaseless recurrence. It is as if something is being endlessly replayed, a historical moment perpetually caught in a loop, a fragment of time endlessly repeating itself. They are not performing. They are, in essence, reenacting this particular characteristic. The silent, repetitive nature of their appearances has given rise to various theories. Some propose the concept of residual energy, suggesting that moments of intense human activity, particularly those imbued with strong emotions, can leave an energetic imprint on a specific place. Under certain environmental conditions, this energy might manifest as a visual or auditory playback, an echo of the past that is neither sentient nor interactive. The Roman legions, with their disciplined, often brutal, and deeply impactful presence, undoubtedly generated immense levels of focused energy and collective emotion. Could these imprints be what Martindale saw? What witnesses along Hadrian's walls still glimpse? Other explanations lean towards the psychological, focusing on the powerful role of expectation. Roman sites in Britain are meticulously preserved, ostensibly researched, widely publicized, and deeply ingrained in the cultural consciousness. Visitors arrive at these ancient locations, the remains of forts, the courses of roads, the fragments of villas, already armed with a wealth of preformed imagery. This imagery is constantly reinforced by education, by evocative films and television series, by museum displays, and by the sheer ubiquitousness of Roman history and popular culture. In the dim light of a cellar, along a windswept stretch of wall, or amidst the swirling sea mist of a shoreline, the human mind, primed by history and expectation, might naturally reach for the strongest, most culturally familiar historical template to interpret an ambiguous sight or sensation. And, perhaps more powerfully than any other, the template of Rome provides that immediate, compelling fit. The expectation of seeing a Roman in a Roman place might indeed conjure the perception of one. The legions of Rome, the very embodiment of imperial power and order, officially withdrew from Britain in the early 5th century CE. Their departure was not a sudden, clean break, but a slow, agonizing process. A gradual unraveling of control that left the island vulnerable and fragmented. The collapse of administrative structures ushered in a period often, perhaps unfairly, termed the Dark Ages, a time of profound upheaval, raiding, and the gradual emergence of new Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Yet, in the realm of ghost report, Rome remains, paradoxically, as organized, as disciplined, and as steadfastly marching as it ever was. The chaos that followed their departure seems not to have touched their spectral order. Whether these apparitions are genuinely the residual energy of lives lived with intense purpose, intriguing psychological constructs woven from the rich tapestry of cultural memory and powerful human expectation, or something far more elusive and profoundly unexplainable. Perhaps a genuine thinning of the veil between ages. They serve as a powerful, almost poetic reflection of how Britain grapples with and remembers its distant, foundational past. The Roman period exerts an immense, almost gravitational pull on the British imagination. It represents not just raw power and technological advancement, but also order, unparalleled engineering, and a sense of permanence that still echoes in the landscape. But it also embodies disruption, conquest, the imposition of foreign rule, and the profound, often tragic, clash of cultures. It is a complex legacy, both celebrated and contested, admired and in the ancient, damp cellars of York, where plumbing contractors might still hear the rhythmic tread of unseen feet. On the windswept shorelines of Essex, where ancient defenders still scan the horizon for phantom threats. Along the enduring, monumental stones of Hadrian's Wall, where solitary sentries stand an eternal vigil. And beneath the bustling, layered streets of Colchester, where the ghost of Camulodunum stubbornly refuses to be buried, the legions continue their silent, disciplined movement, not with dramatic flourishes, not with aggressive, intimidating purpose, but with an unwavering, almost mundane steadiness. And this persistent, quiet march through the annals of folklore, personal testimonies, and collective cultural memory that may well be the most profound and enduring haunting of all. The Roman ghosts of Britain are not merely specters of the distant past. They are enduring symbols of memory history, the unbreakable connection between the land and the stories it holds, and the human mind's eternal quest to understand the echoes that refuse to fade. They remind us that the past is not simply gone.